We'll call the December 16th, 21st meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission of the City of Olivet to order. Did I not say 21st? Okay. Okay. 21st. Okay, call the roll. Commissioner Hanson. Commissioner Rich. Here. Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Butke.
Here.
Chairman is here. Mayor Weil. Director Tucker Knight. Assistant Director LaChance. Here. We have the order and we have a quorum. We have what we need. I will go to the next. Beverly, do we have any written communications?
No, we do not have any written communications. Thank you.
Okay, we have a hearing from citizens. I believe that we have one items that are not on the agenda. Therefore information, and we'll take anything up at a later meeting, but there's not a discussion of that tonight. But I will call on Mr. Todd to come up to the podium and for a presentation or your comments. If you can introduce yourself and your address, please. And there's 3 minutes. So, okay.
My name is Craig Todd and I live at 7 Heather Hill Lane. I have lived in Olivet now for 34 years. And my wife and I, when we first came to St. Louis, we actually ran up to Stacy Park, which I wanted to talk about now. And I had no idea what the place was. And I kept thinking, am I in the country now? Or is this, I couldn't figure out all of that because it seemed part country and part city at the same time. But nonetheless, what I wanted to come to and speak to you guys tonight was about the Loop in Stacy Park. And after it's been opened up again, I came up there. We live really close. We've walked up there many times with dogs, etc. And it just seemed like the Loop was gone. And, we can kind of go through in front of the podium, the pavilion and such. But I felt like the whole idea of the Loop needed to be kind of recreated. And that's really what I put on this aerial view from Google. And Beverly and I talked this afternoon. Apparently this is in the works or in the plans already to complete the Loop. So I think I'm just kind of encouraging you all to go ahead and do this. This is great. And, number one up there, the red line, as you can see, I guess that's what you're looking at, is connecting the existing Loop down to the sidewalk. Walkers and runners would go across the park entrance with the sidewalk. And then at number 2, they could continue with the Loop at that point. If there's anything I could do to, from a citizen's point of view, to help out, I'd be happy to do it, but I really encourage this to continue and to recreate that. Other people we've talked with who use the park are feeling that they don't understand what happened. Where's my Loop? Changed. Everybody's against change, I guess, but they're looking for that to be reconnected.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize, Craig. So Craig and I talked this afternoon and I shared with him that we are absolutely, our vision is to add pedestrian loop coming in from the top over there, but I misunderstood about loop because the driver of the recreating of that entrance there is so that bikers and pedestrians did not cross where the traffic is driving into the park. So I recommend that this is something that we discuss when we do the update for the park master plan and figure out how we might be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I apologize. I misunderstood.
Well,
yeah,
that picture's worth a lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. But we'll definitely be putting in access from that north side up there so you can get in without having to walk all the way down. But that thing over the mouth of the entrance where the cars are, that's the one that we're going to have to really reimagine how that would be.
So do I have a couple of seconds?
You've got a minute.
A minute. So I would just say that if I'm a biker or a runner, I have a choice. And if I don't like what the park is, then I'll just go on the sidewalk. So if you're on the sidewalk or the loop, I don't see the difference. So that's something
Okay.
to discuss for later. But
Okay.
thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you,
and,
Mr.
Look forward to having more of a loop.
Okay.
All
Thank,
right.
thank you. Next order of business would be the review of the November 16th minutes. They are in your packet and have been online. Does anybody have any changes or anything that we need to modify for the minutes from November 16th? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve them.
I move that we approve. Move that we approve the November 16th regular meeting minutes as they stand.
Here a second.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Let us move on to the director's report. Beverly?
Good evening, Chairperson and members of the commission. I'm going to share my screen with you. Actually, Dawn has it up. I don't have to share my screen. All right. Oh, I should turn on my camera. There we go. So just very briefly, we had our first kids' night out at the city center. It worked really well. Sports is zooming along. We have a dramatic increase in basketball this year, youth basketball, which is fantastic. Scrolling down, we were going to burn the prairie tomorrow. We have canceled that. We've rescheduled that for January. And there's a lot of information on our website on the Stacy Prairie site if you're interested in why we burn the prairie and how it operates. And we've got lots of pictures of previous burns on there. Can you scroll down? Thank you very much. We are getting ready to move the Parks Division out of the old community center and into their new buildings. We're working a lot on the logistics of the back end of that. And that we have to be out 100% by January 9th. So we're very excited. The mosaic update. So all 120 spots filled for the Park Mosaic at Stacy within a couple of days. And we will ensure that the commission and the council have an opportunity to create their tiles. So just to reiterate, the tiles this year, they're different than the project here. They're actually a square tile that people will paint. So the commission will have one to paint and the council will have one to paint. And then there'll be broken tiles around them because it's a different application than on the wall here. And then we may, because of the popularity of it, we may actually expand a little bit over onto the wall of the new storage facility that, we converted from the old pavilion, because we're putting the big message board there from the old community center, and we may have an opportunity to put some more tiles around there. So Lisa Roth, our artist who is designing and coordinating this, we're still working on that, but we'll keep you posted on that as well.
Who is coordinating the Parks Commission tile?
Well, it'll be up to you guys to decide when you, I'll send out a doodle. You can pick the day that works best for you. There's only 2 days available, a Saturday and Sunday. You'll be in when everybody else is here, but you'll have a table. And then you'll need to talk amongst yourselves, figure out what you want. The theme is focusing on the natural elements of our parks and the, the biodiversity. So there are inspirational photos on the webpage to give you some close-up shots of different parts of the park. Or you could have a favorite corner you want to talk about. So it's really up to you. And Lisa is actually a great coach too, if you want to talk to her. We're very excited to announce that the bookmobile is coming back to Olivet. It used to come to the old community center prior to the pandemic. And now we're coming back with the Sweet Reads program, which is a new bookmobile, fairly new bookmobile option that the county offers. And so it's a bookmobile that comes and it's a lending library, but you don't need a library card. Everything's free. So you can take books, drop books off. They also provide sanitary supplies and diapers and lots of other things. So the first time it'll be here is the 9th of January at Stacy Park. And until the new community center opens, they're going to visit each of the parks and we'll have a schedule posted on the website and we'll push it out through all of our media channels for everyone to, I keep trying to scroll myself. And so that everybody knows where it's going to be. It comes for an hour, but if there's a lot of interest, they will stay over that hour. Turkey Trot recap. We had a fantastic turkey trot and this year generated $14,250 for the Jewish food pantry. So it was even despite the blustery weather, it was still very well attended. So it was fantastic. We have to reimagine summer camps because of the operations of the new community center. So looking ahead to that, staff started hosting focus groups with parents that have their kids in campus. And we also conducted the big survey at the end of the summer. We are working with parents to come up with solutions as we reimagine it. As you all know, the old community center had lots of rooms, was underutilized. Our new center is going to be much more heavily utilized and have smaller rooms. So the camp's going to go back outdoors the way it started. It moved indoors around, I think 2018 was our first year inside and we're going back out to our roots. So it's going to be very exciting and we're involving the parents in that decision-making process. Then we have some winter events coming up. Basketball registration is completed. Don't know why you have the old one here. I apologize. Kids Night Out happened. The blood drive's coming up on the 27th. Puzzle Palooza is sold out. It's sold out so fast. Uh-oh. Did you miss
I
out?
was gonna say tonight that we should be a team. Oh, well, there goes that idea.
You could be a backup team, but it
Very
was so
puzzling.
it was so I mean, it was so popular that we may schedule another one in February. Yeah, absolutely. And the winning team gets gift certificates to the Puzzle Warehouse in Kirkwood, which I didn't even know about. So I'm very excited about that. And then January 19th, Energy Assistance will be back here. So very exciting. And then summer camp registration will be at the end of January. So that's all I have.
How many kids are in basketball? Do you have a number?
I can tell you that
Only 4 teams.
24 teams.
6 each or 5?
No, like 12.
Like 12.
12,
13.
7.
Last
No.
year we had 6 teams.
It's a big increase. And that is direct correlation for us having access to the schools. We were able to take the teams because last year we had a very restricted program without having access to the school gym. So that was we're very appreciative to be able to rent those facilities from Woodview School District.
Any other questions? One person I neglected to call on the roll was a city manager, Sontag.
Oh.
And I think she is on it, so we will.
Yeah, I noticed that, Jim, but it's okay.
Okay. Out of sight, out of mind. Anyway. Yes.
Somewhere related to the energy efficient, with the cold weather coming in, I'm assuming previously we got rid of these little- Do we have anything like that at all now? Or
Yeah, well, there are several warming stations. There's a network of them and the fire department has shared that information and the communications team's pushing that out. We've never actually served as an official warming station. When we're open, people are welcome to come in and warm themselves, but there's a lot of requirements, physical requirements to be stated as a warming or cooling station, which we didn't meet in our old building. There's an opportunity we may be able to meet it in our new one, but we were always available when we were open. But oftentimes when staff can't get in, we only had it was usually just me there and there wasn't enough to open it up or the roads weren't clear, but definitely the city pushes out the warming information. Yeah, you're very welcome.
Any other questions? Okay. Next item, city council report. Mayor Weil.
Well, tonight is my last meeting for 2022. And thrilled to be ending with Parks because you're all one of my favorites. And I just wanted to share, last week we had coffee with the mayor and the guest, it was a trio from the fire department, which was really exciting. And it was really a great dialogue with Chief Carmen, Assistant Chief and Fire Marshal Tim Thane, and then Captain Parker Spencer. And it was really a nice dialogue. And next month, it's going to be with Doty, I got to say it right, Dawn Doty, because she works with our urban planning, and she is been working on the census report, and she's going to be sharing information from that, as well as Beth Quigley. Am I saying it right? Wrong. But Quidry from Shockey. I'm tongue-tied tonight. And they are our consultant. She's a representative from our consultant group that's going to be working on the comprehensive plan. So Dawn and her are working and Beth are working very closely together with Carlos and the task force, and they're going to be presenting and talking at the next coffee with the mayor on January 11th, I believe it is. Yeah, calendar? I believe it's January 11th. And then the January 12th, I believe. It's Wednesday, January 11th in the morning. We also completed our audit for a year end of 2021. And because we always work back a year, and now we and then the DEI had our kickoff, and that was really great. And the next step is that they're going to be interviewing the council members. So we're using Armani, no, okay. Barb's probably cringing on the other side of this. Armani no is our representatives, our consuls for the DEI, and that we had a fabulous first meeting with them, and we'll be meeting with them again at our next workshop.
What is DEI?
DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's an initiative that we've started our first phase in. And in starting it, we're looking at the first phase is meeting with the council, looking at practices within the community, looking at the employee handbook, looking at things internally that we do. And then from the first phase, we'll figure out what the next steps are going to be. And that's what they've been hired to work on us with. So this is a new initiative that we're just getting off the ground. And I don't know, but if you drive up and down Olive, you see all this incredible development going on. Many of you joined, or a few of you joined us and the community center last week, and we did a walkthrough. It was bitter cold. And I just keep hearing great things about the park's improvements. And if anyone went to Plant Haven last weekend, there was a reindeer there the last 2 weekends. So that was fun to see families and kids there and everything. So it's a busy time, and the next couple of days, we'll give a pre-kudos to Bruce McGregor and his team, and because they'll be keeping us all safe and our streets clear for us. So,
And I believe the parks
And the-
maintenance.
and the parks maintenance staff. Well, they're part of Bruce's team when it comes to that. So. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I have one. There was I saw a survey that we could do for the master plan.
Yes.
What's kind of the next steps beyond the survey and when?
That's where we're meeting with Beth to get that step off, and that's some of the things she's going to talk about at the coffee with the mayor, and then the task force group will be getting that out. But the next thing I believe is going to be some community engagement opportunities for people to come and have their voices heard, and they're looking at what that will look like.
Thank you.
Other questions? Now we'll move on to item 7, the Stacy Park fence replacement master plan. This is part of the overall master plan, and we have been, there were some quick hits as far as what we could do for little or no outside costs. Then we got into Prop C. Now we're moving back to the master plan, and one of the vision items in that was to work with the fences at the various parks, but specifically about Stacy. And so the council, and I think some of the neighbors of the parks have had some questions about what is happening with the fencing plan. So Beverly's going to give us a briefing, which will then also be given to the council for our information.
Oh, I need to share my screen before I do that. I apologize.
Is this in our packet? No. Yeah, okay.
Yes, yep, this is an overview. It's not an action item. Okay, so good evening, commissioners and Mayor Weil. So this evening, I'm going to give you an overview of the Stacy Park Fence Master Replacement Plan. And see how if I can do this correctly. Can
And-
everyone see that?
Yeah, and one other thing that I would interject is some of us will get questions from residents, and this is to bring you up to speed on that.
Want to make sure that everybody understands where we are in the process and what's happening. So Stacy Park, as you're all aware, is our only park that has a legacy fence from its previous life. And the Stacy Park Reservoir was built in the 1920s. It's owned by the city of St. Louis. And in the 1920s, Olivet was a little sleepier than it is now, and it was really far away. So the reservoir team that works for the city of St. Louis, we were kind of an outpost on the frontier. So during following World War II, there was a little concern about the Cold War. So they put a chain link barbed wire fence around the entire property that they owned, which is what we currently use as Stacy Park. But when they did that at that time, there was no park there. So over the years, that fence has never been removed. But following 9/11, there were a little more concerns about water supply and safety. So at that point, the city of St. Louis reinvested around the top part of the reservoir, put in a new fence and put in a lot of advanced security. So now there are motion sensors and cameras and all sorts of things up there monitoring it. And their personnel are also there every day. However, in our lease agreement with the city of St. Louis, they no longer care about that other fence, and nor do they want the responsibility to maintain it or care for it. So it's just sitting there. So what I'd like to do is share with you kind of a little overview about, oops, I don't know why I did that. I apologize. There we go. This is what we currently have kind of lingering. So this is the same fence that was installed in the 50s. And you can see along Warson Road, because it's a fence, what's happened, it's deteriorating. It has lots of things growing in it. And it's pretty unsightly. And it's got massive barbed wire on it. So we ask ourselves when we did the Park Master Plan, well, what is the function of a fence? So the function of fences in parks are to protect people from hazards. So for example, in the dog park, we have a fence around the dog park because people want to run their dogs off leash and, feel like they're contained and they're going to be safe. Or if you have a park that's on a large overhang and there's a drop off, we put a fence in. So some of the parts of the new Great Rivers Greenway will have fences on there as fall protection. Or if you have a super busy street and you have a playground right adjacent to it, you'd probably want to put a fence there. But for the most part, the best practices that are identified by the National Parks and Recreation Association is to keep your parks open and welcoming in order to increase equity. So there is a very nice case study that emphasizes this from the city of New York City, and it's their project called Parks Without Borders. So to provide equitable park access to their residents throughout all of their boroughs and their parks, they've made a concerted effort to remove fencing and to enhance the entrances to the parks, make them more welcoming, and to create vibrant spaces and access where people previously couldn't go. And they have some core tenets about it, how they do it, including improving sightlines so that people can go by and see into the park, which actually increases the safety of the park. So that's a pretty nice illustration of what we did as we went through the Park Master Plan process. So here's an example of a park in New York City where previously they had high security fencing, and now they've removed it, and not just removed it, but added seating, a wider pathway that's really welcoming and draws you into the park. So you see that in a lot of our parks. So if you've been by Irvside recently, you've seen the new stairs that and entrance into that park where before it was a hill and people going by didn't even know it was a park. And now we have this welcoming entrance with new landscaping and landscape boulders. And it's, if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go by there and see it. It is stunning and it takes you aback. You say, wow. So we've had several people call and say that they didn't know that there was a park there. So that's really great. So so as we go through this, kind of keep that in your mind, is that is why we are embarking on this. So identified in the park master plan, we have two types of fencing that we use. The first is the split rail fencing. This top picture is a picture of the pathway where it empties out onto Dealman Road. That's a 3-rail split rail fence. We also use 2-rail split rail fences. This inset picture here, this is an aspirational picture of what a fence looks like when it's planted with native perennials. And then black metal fencing is our other standard. So we currently have, this is the new fence that was installed at Irvside for the dog park. So when we went through the park master planning, the commission was very vocal to make sure that this was a more decorative fence and not chain link in keeping with the master plan. The dog park one actually has a special puppy fencing below that you can see where the bars are much closer together at the lower end. This is also the style fencing that'll be used on the Greenway by Great Rivers Greenway. And then this picture here is our existing fence at Stacy Park around the playground. And this is a practice that is also people are moving away from because it creates a false sense of security. Oftentimes parents are in there, they're not paying attention to their kids because there's a fence. The other thing that we observe at Stacy is when we have big rentals at the pavilion, people send their kids over to the playground without an adult because they think, oh, they'll be safe over there. So by removing that, we're actually doing two things. One, we're creating a more engaging activity for kids to move in and out of the playground and have a better experience, but also it's kind of making parents be a little bit more self-aware and pay attention to where their children are. Okay. And then we are doing our fences in phases. So right now we've identified some phases and they are funded, which is why we're doing them. We also have phases of this that are unfunded that we are not doing but we'll do in the future as a vision. So phase one was, oops, I'm sorry, I apologize. I got ahead of myself. So phase one was the removal of the fence along the front of Old Bonham. Phase two will be removing the fence at the entrance on the Warson side of the park. And then phase 3 and 4 is doing the corner of Stacy Park where Old Bonham makes the big turn around the islands and onto Bonham Estates. Phase 5 is providing a pedestrian access point from Olive. And then all the other ones are vision and unfunded. So I'm going to take you into details so you can see a little bit more what we're talking about here. So phase 1 at Old Bonham removed the chain link and barbed wire, and then it reseeded the grass, which is what you see out there with all the straw. That's the new grass. And we also planted many native trees and perennials in there, which right now are sticks, but will eventually grow to make a beautiful landscape there. And that's also where our bioretention basin is. So here, this gives you a zoomed in look. This is what it looked like before with the barbed wire and the chain link. And now we have this open and welcoming entrance. And eventually we will have more benches and site amenities along here. On each of these slides, you'll see a legend here. So green is unfenced, red is the reservoir fence. So when you look up here, the reservoir fence, we are not touching. That's why it's red. We don't touch that fence. Okay, phase 2 is Warson Road. So here we have blue is split rail fence. Yellow is an existing fence that's to remain until it's funded for replacement. So here we have, to kind of orient you, this is the driveway where the park vehicles enter, but this is also the only pedestrian access to Warson Park from the west. There's a crosswalk here. It's a lighted signaled crosswalk that the city of Creve Coeur put in, and the city of Creve Coeur added a sidewalk here for us that comes into the park. There is no sidewalk down this side of the fence, and there's actually a big storm drain right here. So here we have these beautiful trees that are existing. We also have some boulders. So we're going to remove the chain link fencing here and remove all of the grapevine, bush honeysuckle, mulberries, and everything else that has grown up along the fence. That is one of the big problems with fences, is that is where our honeysuckle collects along those fences. So it actually helps us to remove them. We're going to install a 2-rail split rail. We're going to put a bollard here that blocks cars from driving in. And then we're going to put in a few of our boulders in artistically located, and then use these trees and the fences together to landscape it and make it much more welcoming and beautiful. So here's a sample of a mature fence that has native perennials around it. So ours, as you all know, because I know you hear me talk about it all the time, it takes 3 years for perennials to look like that, but we will get there. Because this is what we have right now with the chain link, barbed wire, and these are all the trees that have grown up in there that we can't remove even with volunteers. We've tried a lot. Okay, so that is phase 2. Phase 3 is Old Bonham Road B. So this is, we'll be removing the fence along where the new sidewalk is. And then we'll be removing the fence down where this gate is. And then there is a retaining wall right here. That's a little high. It's about, I think the retaining wall is about 5 feet tall. The pathway is pretty far away from that. So by code, we don't need to put in a safety barrier, but we're going to. So up here, we're going to take that Stacy playground fence and put it in here. And that'll be just a little extra barrier of protection. So if someone were riding their bike or their dog were running and they got away from them, that there's a little fence there. It's also a little visual reminder not to go over there. And then these areas, once the fence is removed, we will figure out where to put some split rail here, or if we need to put split rail. But until that fence is out and we really get a feel for the space, we really aren't sure just how much fencing we'll put there. And again, the legend somewhere here, there we go. Unfenced, black metal fence and split rail as needed. And then Old Bonham C, this is the corner with Bonham Estates. So this is Bonham Estates Drive here. They have the chain link and barbed wire. They have actually their barbed wire is still here. The one on the other side was taken down. They have a nice black fence post here. And we know from the park master plan outreach and from the opinions of these neighbors, they actually like having a fence there. However, having a barbed wire and right at the entrance to our park is definitely not welcoming or inclusive. So we will be giving them also that black rail fence. And that's nice because that ties in with the aesthetics of their posts there. So I think maybe a split rail there wouldn't look quite as fitting with that section of the park. And then it'll be only this little dog leg. The yellow here is where the fences continues all the way to the cemetery. We're leaving that. That is existing. That's to remain, and we won't really touch that. We'll just leave it there. So really, it's a cosmetic thing over there. Then this is Olive Boulevard. So Olive Boulevard has a bus stop right here. It has the Ameren substation, which we are not touching, of course. We want to fence that. But we do have a dilapidated fence along here, and there is no way for anyone to get in. Over here, we have the driveway. So if you participated in the turkey trot, this is the way you drove out of the park. So we do use this as access for events, and then the water district uses it and our mowing company uses it. So what we'd like to do is open this up here for pedestrians so that there is a way for pedestrians to get in and out of the park. And we can repurpose the posts that we take down on the other side over here to very easily do that in-house without any money. Long-term vision plan here is to remove that fence entirely and have people just be able to walk in on the sidewalk and come through and put a bollard there. And then down on the southern end of the park, we have another. This is really interesting. This is one of your first visual cues of Stacy Park when you come up Warson from the south. And what you see is this fence line. This was completely overgrown. Our park crew has worked with the cemetery volunteers to clear this fence line. They're most appreciative of that. They wish we could clear all this honeysuckle all the way back to the walking path. We've told them that's our intent. But that, we are doing this with volunteers. So the vision here is we'll continue to, well, this isn't a vision, we're actually doing this. We'll continue to work with the Emmanuel Lutheran Cemetery Committee to keep the fence line clear. We would like to eventually remove that fencing just for this stretch of the reservoir. And then if a fence is determined, we would install split rail here. We will definitely install split rail along this part of Warson because this part of Warson is elevated and we'd want a fence all the way down that until it drops down again to the level. However, that is a vision item because we do not have the funding for that. So if Emmanuel Lutheran is interested in having no fence at all, we could take the fence down very easily and that would help us clear a lot more honeysuckle and then keep it clear. So we will be working with them to find out exactly what their desire is. And then finally, we would love for the Stacy Reservoir fence that's remaining to look a lot better. And so does the city of St. Louis. So this is a security reservoir fence. This is a modern one that Missouri American Water put in, I think about 2 years ago. And this is one of their big reservoirs over on Old Olive Road where it comes off of Olive Boulevard. This is an expensive fence. So right now the city of St. Louis can't afford it, but it is a vision item for them as well. They would like to replace that fence and have it be more aesthetically pleasing. So that's the end of my overview and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So just to clarify, the gates that we've had in the past are going away and not coming back.
The gates we've had in the past were removed. Well, they weren't removed, but they were locked open about 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, they have not been closed. The only time they were closed actually was for construction.
Okay.
Yeah. And what that's done is it's allowed the police department to actually go through the park at night.
Exactly. So they'll put bolsters in place. to
Yes, the
prevent-
bollards. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'm just,
Beyond the areas where there's a safety, as you pointed out, at the beginning, you said, removing fences, all the reasons, and it makes sense. And then I heard you say a lot about putting fences back in,
Yes.
and again, where safety areas make sense, but where there isn't a safety reason, why would we put fences in at all?
Right. So along Warson Road, there is a little concern that people would drive in there because it's on grade with the road. There is a drop off and there's a big storm drain there. So having a fence there adds a little bit of a landscaping element, but it also could be a quick deterrent to someone thinking they could just drive into the park. We don't have that concern where there's curbs and gutters, but there's a little bit on that side. But that's again why we're doing not a continuous fence. It'll just be little bits and it'll be more landscape, aesthetically pleasing rather than, a high security fence. And as we start to put it in, we work with the horticulturalist and Olivet and Bloom and just kind of design it and make it look attractive. It may be a lot smaller than just running a fence, but definitely this section of Warson here, there is a steep increase in grade here. And we don't put volunteers in there. It's too steep and we have some erosion concerns. So we will put a fence in here because you certainly wouldn't want anybody going off the trail here and going down that hillside by accident. Yeah. And that would be 3 bars, not 2. Yeah.
The questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
one other question, you
Yes.
kind of covered it. Irvine Park, there
Yes,
used to be a 2-bar fence. Is
there
that-
was. Yes,
So
we.
is that gone now and
That,
staying on?
yeah, so that fence has been gone since before I started here. The only reason I knew we had it at one time is I found some old photos of the park. So now we have, one of the goals there was definitely to open the park up to the public. So adding the staircase where it was steep. So that gets you into the park, and then the rest of it's on grade. So, and we have trees planted there, so it's really not a concern there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a discussion or follow-up discussion on the Five Oaks on worsened fees. I think last time there was some concern in terms of equity and related to the deposits. A subgroup of us met on November 29th. It was Rob and me, Darren and Beverly. And we went over some of the issues that we were having with the with deposits and talked about it. I don't believe that and then we also broke out the fees. If you look in your packet, the on page 8 of the presentation, these are the rates that we talked about at the last meeting. Maybe Don, if you can move us up to page 8. Oh, okay. Okay. I mean, if you can get, yeah, if you can give an overview of it.
Following the last Parks and Recreation Commission, the commission sent this back to the fee working group. So the fee working group met to, I'm going to go through the background. So anyone that's watching from home is welcome to read this. And I've updated the dates. This is going back to the city council on, well, that is not correct. It's going back the first meeting in January. Okay, so the fee working group sent back to was given 2 questions by the Parks and Recreation Commission. One is to consider adding an hourly cleaning sanitation fee, and 2 was investigating tiered pricing for the damage deposit to reflect event size and complexity. So following a meeting on the 29th and reviewing the city's policies, the fee working group will not be recommending an hourly cleaning sanitation fee, that is included. That is the intent of charging fees in the first place, and that will cover it. And then the tiered pricing, the committee had a robust discussion and looked at other agencies and has come up with 4 recommendations. And you'll see here, the green is what the committee added, the working group added at their last meeting. And that is to have a standalone rental fee for the kitchen, different from when you rent it in combination with when you're using it as a catering kitchen. And then if you are renting one of the smaller areas, the damage deposit is reduced to $150. If you are renting the gym, the damage deposit is $350. Or if you rent the entire center, if you're having a big event and you rent the whole center, your damage deposit is $500. And then the membership rates remain the same. So what happens next is City Council has their first reading on the 10th of January, and then their second reading on the 24th of January. So that is the presentation from the fee working group.
Discussion?
I have a question. What is our deductible for the insurance?
I believe it's $1,000, but Barb, I would ask for you to confirm that. I think I'm totally wrong.
And I apologize, I didn't hear the question. I have to,
Oh, is the deductible for the city's insurance, what is it?
I think right now it was increased. Our insurances doesn't work like a regular insurance because it's a cooperative agreement. And I believe it was increased to, it's more than 1,000 now. I believe it's like 2,500, but I would have to check on that.
Thank you.
Other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion for the Parks Commission to recommend these fees, the hourly rental rates, as well as the membership fees to the city council.
You've already done that. So what you would do tonight is you would approve the tiered damage deposit
And the kitchen.
and the kitchen, correct? Those, yeah, so you can,
So-
yes, yes.
So we're
I
basically
apologize.
looking for a motion of the green on the.
Okay,
on the
before we
out.
get there, can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
Can I get some clarification on the difference between the gymnasium and the MP gym damage deposit? What's the difference?
Let me go back to that. Whoops. Oh, my goodness. Much prefer Prezi. So studio playground and then MP gym damage deposit, what's the difference between those two?
No, what's the difference between the gym damage deposit and the gymnasium?
This is the gym hourly rental fee. It's not the deposit. This line? Yeah, that's how much it costs to rent the gym per hour. And then this is the damage deposit. When you rent the gym, you would pay this.
So I pay $150 to rent the gym and $350 in a deposit.
Yes, that's correct.
So to rent the gym, I'm paying a total of $500.
Depending on how. many-
No, well,
you-
no, but the deposit is refundable.
Yes.
Your point to rent the gym.
Yeah,
You have to pay.
I gotta pay
$500.
$500, whether I get the $350
Right.
back or not.
So what the fee working group looked at, and Jim, weigh in if I have this incorrectly. The commission discussed that you have smaller rooms and less people should have a lesser damage deposit. The gymnasium has the largest capacity and is the largest room.
But it also probably has the least amount of damage.
I think
'Cause
it's
it's a
also,
gym.
it's
'Cause it's
also
open.
related to multipurpose room. Well, I mean, so the meeting room would be there. And
I would
so,
probably disagree with the least amount of damage too, because when you're looking at the gymnasium, what you're concerned about is the floor. And part of the issue with the gymnasium, with the size of the gymnasium is you're renting that because you have a large group. And so the impact on the floor, is also pretty substantial. And unlike other areas, carpeted areas that have blocks, if you damage the floor in the gym, it's a bigger repair. The other reason you might be renting the gym is for utilization of some of the electronics in there, and so that may also make a difference.
does that answer your question?
And I can understand why someone might think that seems like, oh, well, it's just an open space. It doesn't have, artwork and things like that. But the reality is damage of the floor is just much more expensive. I mean, and we know that from just the small amount of flooding we actually had at the old community center. And that, we ended up with some flooding. It was, maybe an inch or inch and a half. It was gone quickly, and it was over $100,000 of damage.
The city of University City had a very brief flood in their Centennial Commons. And they have a gym floor that's very similar to the one we're installing. So at first they thought there was zero damage. And then the moisture bubbled up underneath and they were having to replace the entire gym. So if there were an event in there that had food and drinks and someone had shoes that damaged the floor and the water got down inside the same, or alcohol or whatever, the same sort of thing could happen.
Are there other questions?
Just one, talking about the gym floor, is it wood or what is it?
No,
made?
it's a composite. It's a, I can't remember, John, I'm forgetting the term for the special cushy floor.
It's a rollout. It's a rollout, rubber.
Good news is we don't have to varnish it. That's a very good news.
Yeah, I would entertain a motion to add the damage deposit, the variable damage deposit and the standalone kitchen fees to our the previous voted on thing, previously voted fees for both the hourly rates and for the membership rates. Do I hear a motion?
You need all that said, or do you just need a motion to support that?
Why don't we just do a motion to support?
Okay. Then yes, I'll do that motion.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor of the motion to amend the recommendation to the city council? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have future agenda items, and as next year is going to be an exciting year because not only are we going to
You missed them, number 9.
oh, yes, I did. I'm sorry. Park master plan implementation, which is basically the construction that has been going on right now. And I'll call on Barb to give that report.
Is that me, Beverly?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry, Jim asked that you give the report.
Okay, can you bring it up?
Don's bringing it up.
Well, Dawn's, well, there we are. All right. So gonna start with the community center in Warson Park. Things continue to move along. I think the most important matter here is the men's facility. The thing that has really, we tried to do a punch list walkthrough this week. And again, these reports go through the end of November. And so you miss, a couple weeks of activity. But we were trying to do a punch list with the maintenance building. We've really struggled to get power to the building. Bruce McGregor, our public works director, has done an amazing job of working with Ameren. And I'm very happy to say we now have power at the building as of yesterday at the maintenance building. That enables them to complete some of the work that needed to be done after we had some temperature control. And it also then further enables us to, once I think we have another punch list walkthrough on just December 30th, in which Beverly will be walking through along with Navigate, KAI, and Wright Construction, and making sure that everything is up to par and we can start moving in then that first and second week of January. That's an important timeline because it coordinates with the abatement process in the old community center. The desire is that only to move things once or twice, not 3 times. And so if we can get that done over the next couple of weeks, moving things, transitioning items that we're storing currently in the old community center into the new maintenance facility prior to turning off the heat and water to the old community center, then we'll be able to maintain the schedule for abatement and demolition. And that is important because then that will allow us to start early in the spring on the splash pad and the park improvements where the old community center currently sits. With regard to the new community center, they're continuing to work on kind of sealing up the structure for the winter. We continue to be kind of somewhat on par with contingencies. I think one of the main takeaways with the contingency and with the budget in general on the project, first remember that the project, while we divide it between the parks and the community center in Warson Park, the bond is actually one bond. And it's for the entire, all the projects that we have going on right now. I think that while we will spend more money than we had originally budgeted, we will also have more revenue than we had initially anticipated. So at this point, we continue to believe, while we won't be within the same budget that we started, that we will be in budget. I think we all know we are working in an environment that few of us have worked in before, with regard to increased pricing, issues with labor, and also just being able to get items in on time. With that, I think, we're moving forward. I am happy to say that we're meeting our MBE and WBE participation goals. And so I anticipate that we will continue to do that. If you want to move on then to the parks are really wrapping up. Oh, we have some pictures here. I apologize. The first picture of the top right is is actually from the Centennial Greenway. If you recall, that goes up above in south of the new community center. I think you can see from this picture, it's really going to be a lovely view. Once that's done, once you can see the activity, you have the outside patio. I'm really excited. I think that's going to be just really lovely. The middle picture is the west side, and that's the fitness area. Again, with the idea of bringing a lot of natural light into that fitness area. The top right picture is that indoor playground. Again, that's really a signature feature of the building, with the angled roof. That's really a nod back to the old community center. The bottom pictures are all of the maintenance building. One is the inside picture. The middle is obviously the outside with the various bays. And then another picture of the inside. And again, biggest news on that is the power. As you go to the parks, we're really winding down the parks. I think understanding that we're a little bit behind in this reporting, because it's an end of month reporting. Removal of a lot of the orange fencing, a lot of the tree protection fencing, it's mostly down now. We still have areas that are restricted from people from walking. Beverly is doing a lot of work on publicizing why the dog park isn't open, and it has to do with the mesh and the seed that was used. Until that really gets established, it's really dangerous for dogs to be in there because of the mesh lining with the soil in the lawn. Dogs can catch their nails, their dew claws, and so we are doing a bit of public education on why the dog park isn't open. The council at their last meeting did approve a couple of change orders in our parks. One was to assist with at Stacy Park, the retention basin in the front. We had some issues with that. And we needed to we were getting a little more silt in there than we desired. And so we've rectified that. And so I think with this, we're going to be ending slightly above budget where we may have been, again, with what we're looking with the parks, but with the overall project, I think we'll be within budget. And again, within where we hope to be with our MBWBE projects. We have some nice pictures of the parks. And with this, you can see this is really Irvside. The pictures are at Irvside. I think if you drive, even just drive by Irvside, you can see how it's opened up, how the park is just very lovely. And I have got to give kudos to the Park and Recreation administrative team. They have been working with a lot of balls in the air. When you think about the things that we've been working on now, so you have the construction, you have the improvements, you have all the questions that come with that, and the budget and such that come with that. You also have, okay, what's our programming going to be? What are our rental fees going to be? How are we going to be using this space? It's not even built yet. We have our continuing programs of youth sports, which we've seen an increase in, and we've hoped to see an increase in over the last number of years. And then this very busy time, we see almost a tripling in our basketball program, which is wonderful. But at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh. So I just think it's a time, we're in a great time at the end of the year to reflect on these projects. They've been difficult. They'll continue to be, difficult as we move forward. As I said, we're kind of in a different place than anybody else has been in construction. But we have kept the Park and Recreation Department, and the staff has kept the Park and Recreation Department moving. We've continued programs. We've moved into the community center. And I just, I have to say, as I reflect on the end of the year, I'm extremely proud of the folks in this department. I'm extremely thankful for the commission and the role you've played and the support you've played. Jim in particular as chair, I know you have been extremely supportive. You've spent a lot of time. So kind of as a final wrap up, because I have the microphone, I just want to thank everyone for what has really been a great year. A lot of work, a lot of strife, a lot of successes. So thank you all.
Any questions for Barb? Thank you so much, Barb. And I know that you have also provided a lot of support for these projects. Move on to future agenda items. Those are just items of things that are coming up. And we will continue to be looking at that. And I'm sure there is a lot for us to do in the new year as we open the community center and as we begin to get programs in there. It's very, very exciting. And I'm looking forward to that a lot. Are there any comments from any of the commissioners?
Oh,
Yeah, Bill?
related to the
Yeah.
future dated and then are the future items, and then also from the presentation that Barb just gave. I saw that it was, I'm not gonna say proposed, but for the opening of the community center is at April. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, the last time that we've had a communication with and a schedule update, it stayed the same as what it's been, which is about April 15th. We do have some concerns. We've got some pieces of heating with the community center that we've been, we paid we paid a premium on making sure things got shipped out on December 6th. A lot of things have gotten shipped out, but it's really unclear when they'll be coming in. We have some of the RTU units, which are the heating and AC units for the building. that Wright has really been trying to, Wright Construction has really been trying to keep up on. And so it is, it's just, I'm hopeful we'll be in, that will be our schedule. But I also have to acknowledge that it's a struggle right now. It's a struggle to get things delivered when we think they're going to be. Just look at the power for the maintenance building. We had everything in place. We've been working with Ameren, and it took, even when they had, all they had to do was come back and do a fuse. It took 2 more weeks than we thought it would. And then they told us it would. So I will say that, our contractor is still giving us an April 15th date. But I hope we can make it. The AV equipment that we, looked at over a year ago, that we put the order in for, all of a sudden, some of those components have a 12-month lead time. Now we're always working on plan B. Our contingency plan with that is that we'll use some rental equipment, or they'll, give us some equipment to use so we can open up. When the other equipment comes in, then they'll swap it out. But it's, again, and I think that's why I want to really impress upon the commission and folks that the balls in the air on a normal construction project are many, and they're moving pretty furiously. And on this project, there are just many more. And I'm grateful for the staff that we have, and for the consultants that we have. I think Navigate Building Solutions is doing just a tremendous job for us. But at the same time, when you put an order in and it's supposed to be 6 months, and then they tell you it's 12, there's not a lot you can do.
Yeah, yes, and the other thing that I would say, from my experience on construction projects, the contractor can turn the building over to us and say it's substantially complete. There is a lot of work that the staff is going to need to do to make the building operational. There's a big difference between having a completed building and an operational building. And so I think that's something we don't need to get overly anxious about what the date is at this point, because we'll do that. I've been involved in projects where we have where we set an opening time, and people are scrambling and doing all kinds of things. So
yeah, and I think that's a good point too, Jim, because even I think we've seen that with the maintenance building, in that part of, we could have done a punch through, we could have started moving things in, but the reality is we also want to protect the city and the residents from accepting something too early. So we are really committed to, yes, we want to get in there and we want to get things moved, but we want to make sure that we've got a punch list created, that the punch list items have been addressed, and that we can go in there then knowing very well that that we're ready to do what you've said, what you spoke to, Jim, which is complete that final upfit. We have an outstanding list, a very I think detailed lists of things that are needed for the final community center. Beverly and her staff have done just an amazing job, I think, of really trying to thinking about what do we need, what needs to be purchased. And one of the things that we are struggling with is, when do we purchase those things? with furniture, you can get the furniture you want to get, and you want to make sure it's able to move in when we have access to the building. But do you really want to pay them a storage fee? And so, again, I do believe that with the quality of staff we have and with Navigate Building Solutions assisting with this project, we are addressing it in what I think is an optimal way. Not to say we haven't made mistakes, not to say we won't continue to make some mistakes, but I think we're in a process now of thinking about things we never had to think about when we moved into the city center.
Thank you so much. Okay,
I have a
Yes.
follow-up question.
sure.
And this is Jim for you and either Don or Beverly. What's our process for adding something to the future agenda items? Do we send an email? Do I just ask?
Then just ask and we'll get it on.
One of the things that we talked about, I think last meeting, was, and I remember it was this group or staff, but as we're opening up the park, and that's why I was asking about the date for the center. What kind of celebration, I'll call it, are we gonna have? And it could, that would be, obviously would vary park to park, or facility to facility. So is that something we need to add? Because if we meet once a month, April's a blink of an eye.
Yeah, so the staff will be planning small celebratory events in each park. I don't know what those are yet. But we kick that off in January. We start looking at the whole year. We have to get the summer camps set before we can address that. But we'd like to have a framework out prior to the next city newsletter, and the deadline for that's in February.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
So Beverly, so if people have ideas for some of those, since it's more programmatic, if people have ideas, would you like them to send them to you and John?
Absolutely. We'd
Okay.
love that.
Great.
Absolutely.
Thank
You have
you.
ideas. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'd like to, like, for example, when we do something in Indian Meadows, we really like the water to be on. So it's a little weather dependent. So we turn our water on April 15th. In all the parks. That's when we reopen the restrooms, and when the water features have to be tested because they were installed during the water has been tested to the valves, but sorry, I'm saying that wrong. The water's been tested to the meters and has flowed through to the water features. It has not come, like at Villa, has not come through the jets yet. So that'll all have to be turned on. And the first time it's done, it has to be done with the vendor so that the park crew is trained and knows how to use it in the future and work on it, repair it. So there'll be a little bit of a there. What we're putting out on the website is that the water features will be functional from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And part of that is operational, and also when the weather's going to be nicer. And that also helps us have a better understanding of just how much it's going to cost water wise to run those. So we want to be we're going to be very cautious and paying attention to what the water consumption and usage is, because that's a big shift in our operations, and we know it's going to be an added expense. So having, sort of like pools, Memorial Day to Labor Day.
One of the things I'd like to add on to that is that I agree. I think
Lost you,
sorry, I've been talking and talking. I was muted. I think we have a lot to celebrate, and I think it's great to have certain ideas and a plan for how and when we're gonna do it. But at the same time, these celebrations are going to be coming on at the same time we start operating a business like which we've never operated before. And so we'll have new staff, we're going to be trying to, figure out, how do we get new members into the gym and make sure we're doing all these things. And so, and the reason I'm saying that is because this, in fact, is exactly where we need commission support. You folks are going to be the backbone of these celebrations. And you're going, we're gonna need you there. We're gonna need you to take some of this celebratory load off of our staff. Because planning an event, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of time. And you want it to be nice, and you want it to work out, and you want it to be something that people leave and say, that was really nice. But at the same time, we're going to be doing a lot of things that, a lot of news with the opening of the new community center, which I can't emphasize enough, is a new business model for the city of Olivet. And so I would be remiss if I didn't just point out and just say really directly, we need you folks. We need you to help plan. We need you to be there. We need you to really help us shine in these celebratory events that you plan.
And Bill, I think the other part of your question is, if the commissioner at any time has a question about parks or anything, our contact through the Parks Department is Beverly. And so I call her regularly. She probably goes, oh no, but nonetheless, she's open to everyone. And so that if you have a question or concern, call Beverly.
I would be remiss if I didn't say, since you are on future agenda items and the commission annual plan, if you would like to create a working group about celebrating the parks.
And why don't we bring that up at the next meeting? And
Absolutely.
we can do that, but
And,
I
yeah,
think that's,
I think that's
as we
perfect
reorganize
future
ourselves.
agenda. Yeah, I think that's a perfect future agenda item. And I think that's fantastic.
And I am going to let you know that the council, as part of their, some of their priorities, have committed to working with the commission with these celebrations. And that means, again, being there, helping set up, helping do those jobs. And I can see Maxine, even though she's very small on my screen, just shaking her head in agreement.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Given that there are no other items on the agenda, I would call for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make it a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
Let's wish everyone a happy and safe holiday and happy and healthy new year.